Welcome to the April 1st, 2021 Select Board meeting. Please note that in accordance with the emergency orders announced by Governor Charlie Baker, this Select Board meeting will not be open to the public for physical attendance, and the Select Board members are being online via Zoom web conference. This meeting is being live streamed and cable broadcast by the Easton Community Access Television, Comcast 98, Verizon 23, and on ECAT's website, www.eastoncat.org. If you're watching this at home and you have a question or a comment, you can email Michael Blanchard, mblanchard@easton.ma.us, or pose your question on the Q&A feature of the Zoom portal. Please remember to include your name and street address for our minutes. I'd also like to highlight the fact that we do have closed captioning and live transcript on this to assist our residents and neighbors that have hearing impaired. So at this time, I'd like to ask each Select Board member to state their name to ensure that we have a quorum.
Craig Barger.
Tom Broussard.
Chuck King.
Mark Lamb.
And Dottie Fulgenetti. Great. Well, thanks everyone for making themselves available tonight. This is an exciting meeting that we're going to have to be introduced to our new prospective fire chief, Justin Alexander. And Connor, if you would like to give us a little bit of an introduction, we'd like to get started.
Or thank you, Dottie, and thank you, Chief Alexander, for being here. So I'm excited and happy to introduce to the board Chief Justin Alexander, who has accepted a conditional offer of employment to serve as Easton's next fire chief starting Monday, the 3rd. This appointment follows a comprehensive and competitive solicitation, screening, and interview process that is in keeping with the fire department leadership transition plan that Chief Partridge and I laid out for the board and the public last August. Chief Alexander brings 7 years of experience as the fire chief and emergency management director of the town of Plainville. He performed expertly during the internal interviews, the assessment center, as well as in a final series of interviews with the Select Board Chair Fulgenetti and myself. Chief Alexander is a 4th generation firefighter who worked through the ranks in Plainville starting in 2004 as firefighter paramedic, moving to lieutenant and then deputy chief. Also in that time serving as EMS coordinator, training officer, department mechanic, dispatch liaison, and equipment coordinator before becoming chief. He has served on municipal building committees, including serving as the assistant owner's project manager for a multi-million-dollar renovation rebuild of town hall and public safety buildings in his community. He's innovated in the community paramedicine space, which is going to be a major area of focus for fire EMS departments moving into the next 10 years. He is experienced working with regional dispatch centers, which is great given SEMREC. And he's been deeply involved in community outreach in Plainville as its chief. Chief Alexander has an associate's in fire science, a bachelor's degree in political science, and will complete his master's in public administration this year. He has numerous professional certifications, including chief fire officer, safety officer, and prevention officer. He serves as the chair of the Bristol North Emergency Medical Services Committee. He's a member of Plainville's Cable Advisory Committee, BCC's Alumni Steering Committee, and the Sturdy Memorial Hospital Foundation Board. He's the recipient of the Plainville Citizen of the Year Award from the Lions there in 2017, the BCC Outstanding Service Award in 2018, as well as the President's Scholarship at Bridgewater State University. And in his somehow existent free time, he's a pilot and a mechanic. We can talk process questions later if the board has questions, but I don't want to monopolize this meeting. I'd like at this point to turn it over to Chief Alexander to say a few words, introduce himself to the board, and we'll take some questions from there. Chief?
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I don't know if, hopefully the only direction from that introduction isn't down. I'm going to try hard to show you why I'm excited to be your prospective fire chief starting May 3rd. It truly is exciting for me to be on this call tonight. I've been looking forward to it all day. A little background on myself besides the great introduction that I just received, which I appreciate. Married. I have two wonderful daughters, a 9-year-old and one daughter is going to be a year old on the 6th. So that'll be a big thing. She's a COVID baby, so that was fun. I was fortunate enough to be able to be there when she was born. They didn't make me stay outside, so that was a plus. And so, I mean, they're truly my focus. And then in what little spare time I have, my absolute passion outside of that is flying. I'm flying for nearly 30 years. So I own a plane in Taunton. I spent a little time with it today. It was good mental therapy to get ready for tonight. It's what I do. So it's anytime anyone wants to have a long-winded conversation about aviation, feel free to call me. That's a little bit of background from the personal side, the professional side. I come from a long line of firefighters in Rainham. I grew up in Rainham. I was on the call department there for a period in the late 90s. Ended up in Plainville in 2004, as it was alluded to. I am a proud 4th generation firefighter, as Mr. Reed pointed out. So when I got to Plainville, it was a department that was starting to come out of its own struggles at the time. And then it came out a long way. We and I took over in 2013. We had reached a new level where it was time to expand and grow. Some big things were happening in town, casino, all those things happened under my tenure. Gave me a lot of experience that I could bring you today of knowing how these buildings are built and the permitting of buildings, especially where codes aren't even up to date with them in Massachusetts because they're so new and novel. So we were able to do all those things, and the fire department grew as a result, and we were able to do many good things. And I'm proud that we have a beautiful new police and fire station, town hall, that I was able to be a big part of. And I think when you add up all of the experiences that I've had leading up to what you have tonight in front of you, it is somebody who meets your ideal candidate from what was put out for Mr. Reed when you were looking for your candidate in the packet of who you were looking for. And I just go down that list and I can check all those boxes. So I'm very happy tonight to come to you thinking and believing that I can meet everything you're looking forward to, and you will have my 100% effort at all times, day and night, 24/7. That is my commitment to you, and I have a proven track record of doing that, and not just as your fire chief, but as somebody who wants to be involved in your community outside of the fire department as well. So I'll be there. Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to ask the board members in the usual order if they would like to have questions or make comments, and starting with you, Craig.
Hello, Chief. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I must say that I was very impressed with Connor's introduction, and I was wondering how you were going to top that. I was very impressed with a number of things that I read about you. One is that I was impressed with your introduction letter, very thoughtful, and I was interested in some of the things you talked about, and wondering, number one, what drew you to Easton from Plainville?
Well, I think one important thing to realize is over the years, a lot of people have always asked me, do I want to go to a bigger department or a different department? Because I took over very young. And obviously that meant I was going to have 20 plus years as a fire chief before I would be eligible for retirement. So leading up to Easton, the job posting, I can tell you that the only 2 full-time departments that I've ever applied to are Plainville and now Easton. And why is because when the job postings for fire chiefs typically go out, the fire chiefs see them, they email them to each other. And I was able to look at it and read it, and it really stuck with me. And I've read many of the others. Everybody around us has hired new chiefs. You had Franklin and Norfolk and Rentham and Attleboro and Norton and Mansfield, and the list goes on. But none of those really spoke to me. And I genuinely felt that this was something that I was interested in and wanted to pursue. And I did some homework, learned more about Easton. Your documents on demand area is excellent. Good way to learn a lot about your town. A lot of great video online from various sources. And it just seemed like everything I've learned along the way, I could really bring to the table and do some great things with all the great people I've already met in Easton. So it was just a good fit at a great time, and I'm very happy that I got the opportunity.
Talk a little bit about your ability to connect with personnel and with the community. Can you talk a little bit about that from your experiences in Plainville and how you would bring that to Easton?
Absolutely. Connecting with personnel is, those are very, although there's some parallels, connecting with your personnel and connecting with the community are different skill sets. Connecting with the personnel, it's a tightrope act between, having to be the chief and also connecting on a personal level with everybody. I think it's important to know, the names of spouses and children and interests, and somebody isn't just a face that you see in passing because they're at another station in Easton where there's 3 stations. It's very important that you have that personal connection so that when the tough things happen, you can fall back on that a little bit. You can use some of that capital you've earned over the time to deal with the tough things. And there will be tough days. There's going to be great days and there's going to be tough days. And if you don't have that personal connection and that relationship with the staff, with everybody on there, it becomes very difficult. I mean, that's not to say that everybody's going to be your best friend and that you should be going out and going to bars with people. That's not my style. But you should be able to sit down and have a conversation, ask them how their family's doing, and be able to connect on that level. And that's what's important. And sometimes that gets lost. And I want to make sure that that doesn't, and that everybody there feels valued, and that I actually care and have their backs. I always say defend the defendable, and I will always do that, no matter what. If you give me a defendable case that you did your job, you were working hard, and we had a tough go because not every call goes well, I've got your back. And that's important that they know that. As far as the community side goes, that's a lot of outreach. I know it's important to, I'm a very big proponent of the schools and the seniors. I was involved heavily in Plainville with the schools. I'm very proud. I won't say what the Easton firefighters think of me, but I was very proud that the duty crews in Plainville went to every first grade school play. We were there, in one of the letters of recommendation that I got was actually from a music teacher, because just such a wonderful lady. And, it's one of the things that I'll always remember about my time here was that kind of community involvement. We used to do pizza parties for the seniors at the senior center and tie it to some safety education for them. We were always out. We make sure our presence was there. We go out and change smoke detector batteries. We would do anything we could to help anybody. And we used to make trips to Lowe's for seniors who were mobile and help them get things to their house to keep them safe. And it's doing those things besides just answering the 911 calls that'll tie you to a community. And that's what I want to bring to Easton. I'm sure there's some of that already going on. But I want to make sure that I take that and run with it and drive that forward, that we have that connection. And there's other constituencies too, besides seniors and schools. And I think it's important that I try to reach out to all of them. I was heavily involved with the Parks Department too, another one of my favorites in Plainville, and trying to put on a bunch of festivals and different things and helping them fundraise, leveraging the fire department in some fun ways, big bonfires and things we could do. So things I want to bring and attempt at Easton, and help Easton, be the best community it can be.
Terrific answer. I appreciate that. I don't want to hog the mic. I had another question, but I'm going to let my colleagues follow through.
Well, it's not always good being the last select board person that gets to ask the questions when the ones before you asked all the good ones. So I appreciate that, Craig. And if your question wasn't answered at the end, I'll give everyone an opportunity to ask one more question. So we'll hand the floor to Selectman Broussard.
Thank you. And Chief Alexander, it's a pleasure to meet you. I don't really have questions per se, and you hit along a lot of the points I was going to raise. I welcome you to our community. One of the things that I've appreciated about your specific position is the sense of safety and calmness that is critical that you exude for our community, and through your actions and through your thoughts. And it's one of the aspects that I think has really served us well, especially through the COVID pandemic. And so instead of asking you questions, I guess I will say that the key points of the very thoughtful the ideal candidate picture that was crafted, that I would point out that were important to me, was certainly understanding Easton as a community. And I think you spoke very well to your understanding of your community. And you certainly displayed with very good examples how you and how important it is to you to integrate yourself into our community. And I think Easton is just a fantastic community. Honestly, it is historical, it is open spaces, it is filled with residents that engage in very meaningful ways. And I think you'll find us both welcoming, warming, and certainly in many cases we'll work hard to keep you accountable to all the things that we should. And I also balance that historical perspective with appreciation for the bullet point regarding the importance of planning for a department's future and to provide contemporary management. And I give the town of Easton, Connor and his team, an incredible amount of respect and credit for continuing to lead as a town and setting the example for other cities and towns across our state. And so that bullet point to me is very important. And I look forward to your leadership in helping our fire department continue to be on the forefront of all of the issues that it should be and helping us continue to lead and being a great partner to Connor and the rest of the team in that regards. You addressed the importance of managing department personnel. I think that putting people first is a pretty important value, and valuing team and our community is important. I spoke about the importance, there was a well-worded statement, the ability to professionally and dispassionately respond to all major emergencies. And we have certainly had our share of weather events, snowmageddon, people losing power for weeks. And we just have such an amazing emergency response team that is there for our community and that I know our community deeply values. And you know that, and I mean it sincerely, it creates comfort, confidence for our community with our town and our town services. And when you do so in a very critical emergency nature, obviously that just stands out even more. So I don't have any specific questions. I do want to say thank you sincerely for your interest. And I do want to say thank you in advance for all the hard work that I'm sure you're going to put forth in service to our community and to its residents. So it's really nice to meet you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I will endeavor to not let anyone down with that either.
Thanks, Tom. Chuck, you're up.
Welcome, Chief. Thank you for your service, and I look forward to seeing you around town. On a lighter note, I feel like I know everything about fire departments now because my wife and I have been binge watching Chicago Fire during the So, but Chicago is obviously a much bigger stage than Easton, and Easton is a somewhat bigger stage than Plainville.
Mhm.
And you gave an excellent answer to Selectman Barger in terms of how you're addressing that as a challenge and how you intend to continue to be a role model for the town. A separate question that I have is that coming from a little bit of a personal note, coming from a family of 4 generations of firefighters, could you tell me about the influence of your forefathers and family and how that drove you to wanting to become a firefighter?
Certainly. So I had I'm just old enough that I got to experience the end of the World War II part of my family that were firefighters after the war. I caught them at the tail end and remember them as a small child, and you know, how they operated the fire service is definitely a little different than how the fire service operates today. But one of the most important things that I learned even at that young age was they had a work ethic that was something that's hard to duplicate today. So the oldest generation that goes back within my family set that in there, that you go, you do the work you have to do to get the job done no matter what, and you find a way to do it. That's the other thing. You don't come back and just say, I'm sorry, it's impossible. You find a way to do it before you come back and say, hey, this can't be done. You proved that you turned over every stone, every way to do it. They were directly spoken. They were rough around the edges, and I appreciate every one of them for what they taught me. And then as you go forward with the the progression within my family. I give an example of my father. He's a retired lieutenant out of Rainham. He gave me one piece of advice that sticks with me today, that I use on every call, especially the more serious ones. And we've had them, whether it be big fires, mill fires, plane crash. We've had them. The worse the call sounds, the calmer you need to sound, because you set the pace for everybody right out the gate. And that is something that has stuck with me. And that's lessons I've learned from within that lineage of my family. I was telling Mr. Reed about an adage that I use is that one of the things I always envision, no matter how terrible a call is going, because sometimes they don't go well, and you got to work at it to fix it and right the ship and make it go, is that you look like a duck on the water. On the surface you look smooth, you're just gliding along, and underneath those feet are going 100 miles an hour. And sometimes that's what it's like to do this job. But it's critically important that you demonstrate that you're calm no matter what. You sound calm on the radio, even inside you're screaming in your head. So those are some of the other lessons I've learned. And then, when you come into my generation, my brother was a firefighter in Rainham now. I look at where we are, where we're going in our careers, and how the fire service has changed. Things like cancer prevention and mental health and things of those nature are critically important now. And you have to take all the lessons from the past and bring them into the modern fire service, and not get stuck with the old adage in the fire service of 200 years of tradition unimpeded by progress. You can't let that hold you back. You've got to take the best of the past and bring the best of the present to develop the future. So having 4 generations of that has certainly helped me along the way.
Thank you. That's very enlightening. I'm all set, Dot.
Thanks, Chuck. Mark?
Hello, Chief. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. These are tough questions to follow. I mean, there's been a lot of great questions and comments, and your resume is like somebody who's on the cusp of retirement, not entering into the next chapter in their life with 10, 20 years left in the tank. There's no question that it's exceptionally impressive, and you carry yourself very well. It's very clear with everything you've done and accomplished. You're a leader. You're a leader in your community. You're a leader in your firehouse. And that's the type of thing that Easton is always looking for. I'm sure Dottie and Connor had shared with you. Our department head set the bar very high. I'm not gonna around the bush about that. We have exceptional department heads, and every one of them go above and beyond, and there is an expectation that they'll go above and beyond. And you've demonstrated that's who you are. That's not just it will be a challenge for you. If it wasn't a challenge for you, I doubt that you would be here. You seem like the type of person who seeks out a challenge and then overcomes it. No 2 communities are the same. Easton's unique, just like Plainville's unique, and there are challenges along the way. I genuinely appreciate your awareness of your roots in the 4th generation of being a firefighter, and growing up in that environment and seeing your father and your grandfather, and the character of people that they are to do what they do. I think that makes you it makes it part of your blood. I grew up in a household where my father was a police officer, and my grandfather are uncles and cousins. And though I'm not, when you live a life where from a small child, and that's what you see demonstrated to you every single day, it changes you. And I think you know what I'm talking about when I say that. And I love that you have mentioned that you were so aware of it at such a young age. It was so important to you that the lessons never left you. And you also see that the world is changing. People are changing, and you need to take those lessons of the past and overlay them with the present and create something as we move into the future. You seem like you are so aware of these integral things that I think Easton is very lucky to have you. In those moments that you're going to encounter, that you've already encountered, I'm sure, many, many, many times, when things are going completely, they're falling apart. It's an emergency situation. There's something that my father said to me, and it was, in those moments, to become a leader, you need a sort of discretionary stoicism. And I think you have that. So I think Easton is very lucky to have you. I'm very interested in that you were a pilot. When I started my college career, my major was actually aviation, and I did a lot of flying myself. So I'd love to talk with you about that sometime. But welcome to the community. We're lucky to have you, and I look forward to shaking your hand.
Thank you very much, and I'm always looking for someone to go for a burger somewhere in New England. So anybody who's interested, there's a seat that's always empty, and it's boring to go by myself after 30 years. So.
I could share some stories with you that I think you would get an absolute kick out of.
Absolutely.
So Craig, did you have that one more question that didn't get asked? You're on mute.
No, I think the chief has answered it. I'm excited about the opportunity to, as Mark said, to shake his hand and to welcome him to Easton. We have as Mark said, we have a terrific group of senior managers led by Connor. And I look forward to your participation. And I'm sure that the people of Easton will be very pleased with our decision this evening.
Thank you.
So that just leaves comments from me. I was fortunate enough to spend some time with you and get to know you a little bit better through the interview process. And so what I would say is that to get through this process, we know that you're smart and talented and competent. There were some really great candidates along with you, and you did rise to the top. And, the things that were important to me, if there was a word cloud that I could put out, I think that you met all of them, honesty, dependable, work ethic, communication, competent, innovative, leadership, poise, integrity. These are all things that you demonstrate, through the information that you sent us in this very brief time that we've been speaking together, and then through the interview process. And, this is a great board. This select board, as you can see, very, very dedicated, very professional. It's a real team effort. And the culture of our community is very important to us as well. So I think that it's going to be a great fit. And I think that we want you to stay for a long time, and really look forward to having you and your family become part of this community and our families as well. So we're going to take a brief executive session to go in and just talk about some final, dot the I's and cross the T's. And I'll make it an official motion to adjourn to executive session to come back to formal session. And if you and the other attendees want to hang on while we do that, I'll take a motion to enter into executive session to return to open session.
Move, Barger.
Second, Broussard.
So that's a Barger, Broussard, and a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
And Full Janetti, yes. So we will sign out of this, sign into the other executive session room, and then come back.
Great, thank you.
That's the email that was sent by Michael at 5:49.
So we are back. We have Craig Barger, Tom Broussard, Charles King, Mark Lamb, and myself, Dottie Fulgenetti, back from our executive session. Mark has to get out quickly, so this will seem a little bit rushed in the beginning, but we will speak a little bit more. I'm pleased to announce that the board has voted to ratify the employment agreement with Justin Alexander as fire chief from May 3rd, 2021 to June 30th, 2024. We're going to take a vote on that in this session because we spoke about it in executive session. So Craig, would you like to make the motion?
So moved.
Second, Broussard.
So that's Barger, Broussard, and a roll call vote.
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
Lamb, yes.
Lamb, yes, and Fulgenetti, yes. So, Mark, do you want to make a quick comment before you leave, or are you rushing out?
No, just really quick. I said it before we went into executive session. I think that you guys made an excellent pick. I think that Chief Alexander is going to bring a different perspective to the town. He's going to build upon what Chief Partridge, who has served this town phenomenally, he's going to build upon that. He's going to continue that, and I'm really excited. I think we should all be very happy and pleased, and it's a next chapter for the fire department. So congratulations, Chief Alexander.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, I got to take off.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Mike,
you.
can you bring Chief Alexander back into our panel? Hello, Chief. You heard our vote earlier. We were a little bit rushed. Mark had to get to a parent-teacher conference, so we were trying to move that along. Congratulations. We're very excited to have you on board as part of our team. And I also want to take a minute to really thank Connor and the whole process that we went through was very thoughtful and deliberate. And Connor, you just did a really great job, you and your team. So thank you so much for that. And, as others mentioned, you have big shoes to fill. So we're excited to have you on board. And Connor, if you want to just tell us a little bit about the transition process.
Sure, thank you. So congratulations, Chief Alexander. Thank you to the board. As we discussed last August, we have Chief Partridge as interim chief currently, and he has been very generous with his time as interim and has continued to offer to stay on as a consultant as we had discussed to assist with the onboarding and transition of Chief Alexander. So Chief Alexander's first day will be Monday, May 3rd. Chief Partridge will be available as a consultant for up to 2 months after that point. But that'll be kind of a judgment call between myself and the two chiefs. And we'll work together on that front to make sure everything's handed off as smoothly as can be with the department that Chief Partridge has done a really great job leading. And as you've all said, we're excited for Chief Alexander to take the reins there. We, both chiefs and I are still working out the details of the more ceremonial swearing in. Obviously, COVID complicates that a little bit, but we will work together and plan, meet the chief, open house, swearing in type ceremony for Chief Alexander, as well as the appropriate farewell and well-wishing ceremony for Chief Partridge, probably May-ish. But we'll work that out. That's one of the to-dos for the new chief, and we will let the board know and announce that to the public as well as soon as that's ready.
Great. Any last comments or questions from the board?
I just want to welcome you to our wonderful town of Easton. We look forward to, as Mark said earlier, shaking your hand. And we'd love to introduce you to folks in town that we all know. And I'm sure that they're going to be very pleased with Connor's selection. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Or Chuck?
Oh,
Welcome, Chief.
welcome.
And Justin, I'll give you an opportunity for the last word before we adjourn.
Oh, that's hard, just one word. But no, I'm beyond ecstatic that this worked out. It was a very thorough and professional process. I've helped out with the processes on other jobs. Being on this side of it, it's always the waiting game and hoping you're going to succeed. And here you're going to the next step, and you know, it paid off the wait, and the process was outstanding. So compliments to everybody, and Mr. Reed and the group he hired and the board for all their choices to get to this point. And I'm happy I was your selection. So very, very humble and honored to be with you all starting May 3rd. And I'm sure there'll be stuff between now and then.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to the board and Connor and you for a special meeting on a Thursday night. So we appreciate that. And we're very excited to move forward with you, Chief. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it, Barger.
Second, Broussard?
That's Barger Broussard
Barger, yes.
Broussard, yes.
King, yes.
and Full Janetti, yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night. Stay safe,
Thank you,
everybody.
everybody.
Take care.